I mean, like, what were you like as a student? Like, was math your subject, or were you good at all the subjects? Like, how would you characterize you as a student?
Honestly, yes was my getaway from my personal life at that time.
Um, did you choose yes for any particular reason, or was it just the school that was in your neighborhood, or were there other high schools you considered
My
going
record,
to?
I guess. I
Yeah.
tried Logan and Union City all the way up to Skyline, and the only ones that would accept me when I went downtown were
Kings Estates closed down, and then it was East Oakland Community there for your sophomore and junior years, and then that school closed down, and then Independent Studies for your senior year. Like, do you remember interacting with the students at the other schools, or was it just kind of like you sort of are thinking about not only what people are teaching you, but why people are teaching you? I guess what I'm curious is like, and you probably got friends went to different high schools. Like, how do you think the experience at Yes compared with
yeah,
experiences at other high
I
schools? Do
actually
you have
getting into
any
it. It was
idea
great.
on that?
Uh, Bremner was one of the first people that actually made an impact to let me know this is something different when with his class.
What other positive memories do you have from your teachers or your curriculum or your student life there?
I remember Haslanger, how she helped me senior year.
I'm curious um, what was the experience of speaking at
Right, I
graduation
didn't
like
even
for you?
expect me to graduate. And so when I told them last minute to come along, okay, they were expecting the graduation, but I didn't tell them about the speech. And so that was something else that made me feel proud because I came up to say a speech and they're like, what's going
Focus.
on?
Like, that's crazy. You feel like the social justice focus impacted you?
I do. And one of the ones I appreciate is how we used to have the youth court. And so it was the opportunity to be judged by your
Positive
peers.
things. Do you think
Like you
Yes
would
was
in the
ahead of
real
its
world.
time?
I think it was. I think it was, and honestly, so far ahead of its time, it didn't get the opportunity to fully flourish to the extent it could have.
All right, welcome, Chico. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
doing this.
Anytime. Glad to be here.
Yeah. This is kind of just a little like, I guess it's an experimental project, like idea I had to fill my time over the pandemic, but also maybe to create a bit of a memorial for Yes, or like almost um like a yearbook, but 12 years or 15 years later, or however many years later. I think it's kind of cool to the people that are willing to come and do an interview like this usually are comfortable with themselves and have interesting things to share. And so I think it kind of ends up being a good thing that other people can watch. But I also think it's something that it's just a conversation that I enjoy having. So
Yeah.
so what are you up to these days?
I primarily work in a manufacturing company as a quality supervisor. I have a lot of conversations with people halfway around the world on their complaints and trying to fix them and give them confidence that it won't reoccur.
Okay. That must be fun. People complaining from all over the world.
It can be. Sometimes it's rather irritating when their expectations are higher than I can deliver.
Okay. I want to obviously talk about Yes. I remember having you my first year as a teacher. I think that was 2007, 2008, which was your senior year, right? You were good. You were a math student. You like I don't know what you were like in your other classes, but I know you absorbed math well. And I remember not always being able to meet your needs because I had a whole lot of classroom management issues going on. But I remember like whatever I put in front of you, you would get into and get interested in. What do you remember from Yes?
I remember your first year being my senior year. I recall there was an acclimation period when you were more getting accustomed to how you address people and how they how would you say, how they took that reaction and addressed you afterward. I remember where we used to tell you, stop saying you're sorry so much.
Yeah.
Like say my bad. It doesn't seem like so critical when you say that. I do remember in your math class as well that I absorbed things pretty easy, but I just got bored easily, especially since it's everything else I had going on at the time, and it made my mind wander.
What was, I mean, like, what were you like as a student? Like, was math your subject, or were you good at all the subjects? Like, how would you characterize you as a student?
Honestly, yes was my getaway from my personal life at that time. And so I did try to make the best of it. I know I didn't make the best of it as much as I could, but I enjoyed the learning part, and I wish I could have done better in high school than I did.
Um, that's interesting. Like, I guess I'm curious to hear more if you want to talk about like any of that stuff, or like, did you choose when you do you remember choosing yes, did you choose yes for any particular reason, or was it just the school that was in your neighborhood, or were there other high schools you considered going to?
Yes was one of my only options, actually. Um, I had a bad I had bad experiences in middle school, and so towards the end, I wasn't actually supposed to graduate, and I almost got expelled.
Towards the end of middle
Um,
school. Where'd you go to middle
yes,
school?
Elmhurst.
Yep, right down on 98th.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you
Yeah, the,
almost weren't supposed to graduate, but you did, and then yes was the only option for you.
yeah, because of the incident which caused me to only get expelled. A lot of high schools weren't accepting of my manuscripts or credentials. I'm forgetting what you call my record, I guess. I
Yeah.
tried Logan and Union City all the way up to Skyline, and the only ones that would accept me when I went downtown were the charter schools. And they literally handed me a paper with a map, and they said, here, 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 and here. These are your options.
And was yes one of those?
Yes, it was.
Because we often got confused with the charter school, but we are not a charter school. We're part of OUSD. Um, but so that's interesting to hear you say that. So when was it always in the same building when you were in ninth grade? Was yes in the same building all 4 years you were there?
Yes, it was. I remember
And
we shared the school. Well, we initially, I think up to, I think even the senior year, only half of the school was with us. We shared it with another middle school ninth year, and then we shared it with another high school, my 10th and 11th year. And then senior year, I believe, was independent studies.
yeah, so your freshman year must have been Kings Estate Middle School. It was interesting because
Yes.
I talked to Miss Benson, and she filled me in on a bit of the history. And so um, Kings Estates closed down, and then it was East Oakland Community there for your sophomore and junior years, and then that school closed down, and then Independent Studies for your senior year. Like, do you remember interacting with the students at the other schools, or was it just kind of like you were pretty much on your own with the yes students?
I was pretty much on my, well, okay, so when I came in, yes, I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew it was a small school, and I knew it was a new type of school that they were trying to establish. Uh, I still had the issues going on from middle school in my personal life. So going in, I wasn't sure who to interact with, who was going to be there, what kind of people were going to be there. And so I kind of took a step back and was just kind of absorbing things for the first couple months, trying to understand how the school was.
You've always struck me as somebody that not just as good at school. You've got like, what do they say, like street smarts or people smarts, like you sort of are thinking about not only what people are teaching you, but why people are teaching you. I guess what I'm curious is like, and you probably got friends who went to different high schools. Like, how do you think the experience at Yes compared with experiences at other high schools. Do you have any idea on that?
Yeah, I actually getting into it. It was great. Uh, Bremner was one of the first people that actually made an impact to let me know this is something different when with his class, because he was teaching in a different way and teaching us stuff that related to us rather than straight from the curriculum.
What
I
kind of
feel
stuff
like
like that?
up about the community, the Black Panthers, the Brown Berets, um, cultural activism. What else about the school system and how it's changed through the years with segregation? I remember a lot of the stuff that he taught.
Oh, that's interesting. And so that's like, was that like empowering as a kid in Oakland? You're Latino kid in Oakland to learn. Is that like empowering to have that as part of your high school curriculum?
Well, seeing that change, yeah, because in middle school, elementary school, it was all about the foundation of America, Christopher Columbus. They never talked about different cultures and how they began or established and what kind of technology and things that they established on their own. Previously, it was all okay. Europeans invented this. Europeans discovered this. They didn't really just get down to the actual history, just what was put in the textbook to say this is real.
Okay. That's good to hear. I think sometimes we teachers from Yes need to hear more of that because, like, I don't know, like it's easy to focus on the ways we didn't succeed. We're a school that ultimately closed down. But what other positive memories do you have from your teachers or your curriculum or your student life there?
I remember Haslanger, how she helped me senior year, changing the not this my final for her class. Instead of writing an essay, she changed it to actually an art project, so that way it could that's my learning style. I'm a visual learner. I can write, but if it doesn't interest me, I hit a bunch of roadblocks along the way.
Okay, that's cool. I live with her now, and
Yeah, I heard that.
she's moving to Philadelphia after this year, and I
Oh,
saw that she posted something on Facebook, and it was just amazing to see all the students like pouring out all their love for her. I feel like she you know, supported a lot of kids throughout the years, and it was nice to see all the appreciations. What about students? Who did you? Yeah, I remember you were friends with. Was it Chris Butler? Wasn't he?
yeah, Chris. But okay, can I touch back on the teachers though? Because
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
there are quite a few others who made an impact on me. Miss Diaz, Kelly Diaz, she made an impact. I was on the road to failure senior year. She actually helped me get back on track and got me. I forgot what program it was, but where students went to UC Berkeley for a weekend and actually seen the college life. So that way you can see what can be in store for you through that path. Before then, I just thought it was a bunch of like really smart people with money that were able to go there, and it would never be something for me. Benson too. I was on the path where I was getting close to being expelled in my senior year because I got into an incident when somebody's phone went missing and they checked my backpack and found some stuff I didn't intend for them to find. And she actually, instead of sending me to youth court, uh, which would have turned into adult court because I was turning 18 soon, she said, okay, let me get a plan together to keep you from what's causing you to be involved with this. And I started doing the mural for my senior project. And actually, with that, my senior essay for Miss Pizzetti's class, the English class, that ended up being my graduation speech, which it was nothing, no, not for good grades or anything like that. She just liked the way I wrote the essay and said, this is something that the people need to hear when they're graduating.
That's dope. So do you remember what you said? What was in that speech?
I know I talked about how the American condition was, how we have fast food jobs which were created to help teenagers get a kind of professional background, so they be prepared when they turned 18. But the current state of it is more around where people have to use it as a career because they have no other option, whether it be for uh, citizenship reasons or they're just not capable of finding something else based on past decisions they made.
Well, that's like, yeah, that's true. I'm curious, what was it? What was the experience of speaking at graduation like for you?
I was scared at first, but then going out there, I became proud. First, because I wasn't even expected to graduate. My family didn't even expect me to graduate, and so when I told them last minute to come along, okay, they were expecting the graduation, but I didn't tell them about the speech, and so that was something else that made me feel proud because I came up to say a speech, and they're like, what's going on?"
That's crazy. You didn't tell them you were speaking. You were just like, you're just, oh, surprise.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. That's cool. All right. What else do you want to do? Do you have more teachers you want to give props to? I'm sure everybody is going to love your reflections and hearing you say their name.
I could honestly go and appreciate every teacher that taught at Yes from ninth to senior year, even the ones that didn't stay. They honestly made a totally different impact than what I went into with the mentality with. I actually believed I can do something different than the path that I thought my life was going, especially with my surrounding going on.
Well, that's good feedback. I think we can all.
And
It did what? I think you got
like,
chopped.
I honestly appreciate it. Okay, could you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, I don't believe, like, how can I say this? I could have honestly went on a whole different path. I should have been dead 3 times that I can count. And going from the path I could have been to how that changed by the time I graduated, due to uh, the caring position of the teachers and them trying to get us what we needed to be, that was something that I don't know how I could show my appreciation for. Even when I came back from doing that UC Berkeley thing from Diaz, like seeing that and feeling like, okay, I can do this, like that honestly made me extremely emotional because I was like, wow, I never thought I could do something like this before.
That's meaningful. And that's the type of stuff that I think doesn't get, we have a system that loves statistics and we love capturing data and we love like driving change through the numbers, but what you're talking about doesn't get captured in any of the numbers, I think sometimes. We talk a little bit about like Yes being a school where there was a social justice lens. Like social justice, I think social justice is a term nowadays that is kind of meaningless. Like it's an like it's the organism that's outgrown its container and lost all its teeth. But back then, social justice kind of meant more than it does today. Like, do you feel like the you spoke to that a little bit about in Bremner's class, but do you feel like that as compared to, I guess, when I talked to Sam Pat, he talked about Life Academy. Life Academy had a science-driven focus. Like, do you feel like the social justice focus impacted you?
I do, and one of the ones I appreciate is how we used to have the youth court. And so it was the opportunity to be judged by your peers, like you would in the real world. But yeah, it's actually peers, not people that from the outside coming in. And so it's people that are, they know, they're able to relate to your situation, and so they can understand why you made the mistake that landed you in youth course itself without judging you like beforehand.
So youth court was like, if you did something wrong, you would go and, like, there would be kids that would sit on a jury or something.
I remember they had the jury. You even had somebody representing you, and I believe Benson was the judge.
Okay.
And so that they would hear your case out, and then they would give you your punishment, whether it be detention or cleaning up or whatever it be.
Huh. Okay, that's cool. You know, like I was like um just in my classroom a lot at the time when this stuff was going on. So I was separated from it, but it's cool to hear. Um, and I think we forget, these are the things that we forget about the positive things. Do you think Yes was ahead of its time?
I think it was. I think it was, and honestly, so far ahead of its time, it didn't get the opportunity to fully flourish to the extent it could have.
I sometimes think that too. I asked you the question obviously because I think it was, and I now teach in Pleasanton, where you work in Livermore, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, I mean, like, we probably have much different experiences, you at work and me in school there, but it's there's a lot of things, even, you know, like there's a lot of things we were doing at Yes that if you could get communities in Pleasanton to recognize they have something to learn from that, then I think there would be we could do things that were more progressive than we are doing. What I asked, but I guess I'm also curious about what you remember about students who you were close with and who you're still in touch with.
I'm honestly in touch with a lot of people I went to school with and grew up with. Um, uh, I don't know if you remember Dee Dee. I keep in contact. I try to do, especially through Facebook, I try to keep in contact, see what people are doing. If they're trying to make a business or something, I'm there to help support it and try to purchase what I can if it's something that interests me, or get the word out that you're starting it. I I
Okay.
really enjoy seeing the people that I graduated with or even went to school with succeed. And honestly, the as much as I seen growing up, people against each other, trying to pull each other down, point the finger. Yes, wasn't like that. Like you had the opportunity to reach out and get the help if you so desired it.
Um, I mean, anybody that you're in touch with that has a business or has something to promote, like, and there's a lot of different things that people are getting into, even promoting themselves as a brand. If they want to
Uh,
do an interview, I would love to talk with them, and they can use it as a promotional tool too.
oh, like a
But
platform.
yeah. Because I think it is kind of, it's true that, like, it was a community. It was a community that meant a lot to me, and I still think in some ways we could be a little bit of a community. You know, like if somebody's um, got selling a book or something like that, like I might buy the book or whatever, you know, whatever it is. Like I feel like there's an opportunity to still be a little bit connected. Um,
Hmm.
uh, what I'm running, I can't think of a specific question. What are some other good things that we can talk about that people will, what are some other things you think about as you reflect on Yes, or how the world has changed since you were in high school?
Well, like I can tell you, the impact that Yes had on me is just so that I stay in contact. Like I don't know if you remember Hector Estrada.
Yeah.
Yeah, we keep in close contact, and we're actually trying to do our own thing to create some business. Since I do graphic design on the side and I learned it through school, we're trying to come up with our own brand.
Is he with Rodrigo Valdivino too? Is he?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I have contact with them as well.
And they're getting into, can I say it, the cannabis industry, right?
Yes, and that's where I come in.
Okay. Well, what's your thing? Like, you do the graphic design?
Yeah, I'll be creating the merchandise and logos. and then we're getting the machines together so that way we can print it all and do it ourselves.
Okay. That's interesting to me. I guess I did want to, that reminds me, I did want to, because you've always been an artist. So like, is nowadays a good time to have the skill set that you have with the graphic design, with the artistry? Are you still do stuff
Yeah,
just
especially now because graphic design was traditionally like magazines, newspapers, what's the word for it? Like media. But now it covers web design, app design. You can do stickers, labels, logos, shirts, all kinds of things.
and what kind of software do you use?
Adobe, InDesign for anything with like media, UX for app design and web design, and Adobe Illustrator for the logo design, because you can change any art design into a vector image, so you can resize it without it looking pixelated.
Oh, okay. To a vector image, is that what you said?
Yes.
I never really knew what that is, but that's so that you can like like enlarge it or shrink it and it still keeps the same look and feel to it.
Yes, exactly.
And do you work with like a lot of these side projects, or is this thing with Rodrigo and Hector kind of a rare opportunity for you?
Well, with the designs, I reach out whenever I can. There was a guy that used to work at my job, and now he quit and just to start making beef jerky. And uh, I bought jerky from him, and I let him know, hey, if you need a logo, I'm here. And he said, yeah, I actually do. Give me your contact info. We'll be in touch.
There's this website Fiverr, you know, the Fiverr website, like
I've heard of Fiverr. I just haven't been there yet, actually.
I think it's for people like you that just like if like you don't have to have a friend or something, but so like say I wanted a thing, like would I just tell you what my logo is and you find some kind of cool way to design it, or like how do you operate that?
It's a longer process. If you have an idea for what you would like to be in the image, I can run with that. But I need to know, okay, what are you using it for? Is it going to be for a website, or is it going to be for print? Because that's two different kinds of coloring, RGB versus CMYK. If you use, I'm sorry.
CMYK.
Yes, that's printing colors.
Okay.
Cyan, magenta, yellow, and the K is black, basically.
Okay. All right. So that's for print, but the RGB is if it's digital.
Yes, exactly.
And so like with the beef jerky guy, was it digital?
It's for both, because he wanted labels for the bagging for his beef jerky. He wanted a logo that he can put on business cards and shirts, and he also wants to start a website. So it's a whole package deal. I actually get the information together, create rough drafts, and I create a whole portfolio for them to review before we go into the finalization process.
That's interesting. And so will if he wants both, will you do something on print and then digitize that, or do you do one on print and do you do one on the computer that look the same?
I do an image of both with both color schemes, and then it's a file that'll be created from that. So that way, depending on what their needs are, they can send that file that's all together to the whatever print shop they want, so they can get what they need. If it's a design, then it can be easily added to the website just by a copy and paste or a load option, depending on where you want it in.
Okay. And what's your style? Like, do you have a style?
I don't think I have an actual style, to be honest. I've been following so many different artists and taking different art classes these past years that I've taken anatomy so I can know bones and the muscles, so I could just draw body shapes out of thin air. I've taken caricature classes. I've taken color theory classes, so I don't have to try and see how to make a color like by moving around. Okay, that's a bright green, so that's up there. I know where how to mix that color. Like if you're gonna mix paint together to make a certain color.
Okay. And do you have like a portfolio online or a website or anything like that?
That I'm still working on. Life's been so hectic between
Yeah.
moving moving jobs, having a daughter, going to school, and trying to make everything work.
Okay, I just didn't know if I should be promoting you, like flashing, putting something up on the screen. But how old's your daughter?
She just turned 1 on the 20th.
Oh, okay. Congratulations. What's her name?
Thank you. Eliana Bree Rico.
Eliana Brie Rico. And does she keep you occupied all the time? What's she like?
Yeah, she just started walking maybe a month and a half before she turned 1. She's trying to start talking, but she's still in her own language right now.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, that's cool. I'm sure you're a good daddy. Um,
Yeah. You know my wife too. It went to Yes, right?
no. Well, I didn't. I don't. Who is? Do I know your wife?
Anjane.
Anjane. Okay. Yep. Well, tell her I said hi, or she can watch this video. Hi, Anjane. And if she wants to do an interview, she can too.
Okay. I'll mention it. I mentioned it to her. I was doing the interview, but I'll tell her you requested her as well.
And then the other thing, like I feel like the thing that's kind of interesting for me to talk about is a little bit about like social, political, humanitarian issues that are going on today. Because I think that we have a way of, as we get older, we think we understand the world better, but it's actually the younger, it's the youth that can tell us about things that we don't see and help us see our blind spots. And a lot has changed in the world in the last year. Like, I'd be curious, what do you think about, like, is politics or Black Lives Matter, or those things that you pay close attention to?
I try to. Honestly, my age group is in a sweet spot right before technology took over, but right after when kids had nothing really to do, just but play outside, and things were a lot different before me. So I feel like I'm able to see from the older aspect, but also the younger aspect, and kind of combine them. Seeing how people react, and instead of reacting like when I see somebody make a comment that they think is okay, instead of reacting angrily, I try to understand their perspective. I still voice my opinion, but it's not from an angry side. It's from I'm explaining why you shouldn't be talking like that, why it's not okay.
And is this on like Facebook, on Twitter, or live in person, or
All I've done it at work. As a supervisor, I have to make sure that people don't feel uncomfortable or harassed there. So I'm forced to kind of walk through everybody I supervise and see whether or not they're having conversations or doing certain kinds of things which may make people uncomfortable or not want to be there. You understand?
Yeah. I think that's a big thing too that is hard to do, is like correct people without like it's not about the person sometimes, but when they make a mistake, they need to be corrected, right?
Yeah. I honestly don't think that it's more of a corrected, it's a showing them. People are so closed-minded, especially the older people, that they think things are the same way as they were when they were growing up. But times have changed so much, and you can't just have the same mentality and expect to keep going for things that worked for you 30, 40 years ago, because they don't work now. You have to roll with things and kind of evolve to understand that, you know what, we're all capable of better. We're all the same people. The even the aspect of race, I studied that so much and try to understand where it came about. And it's a big issue nowadays. But honestly, you know what? It doesn't exist.
It's a social construct, you're saying?
Yes.
But I mean, I would say that I've benefited. I have I would call myself white and say that has benefited me throughout in a lot of ways. And I think it's like mixed with my background, my native English speaking, like the neighborhood I grew, the community I came from and stuff. But when you say race is not a real thing or it's a made up thing, don't you feel like some people are could get offended by that?
No, I'm not saying that, okay, race is not a real thing, but it deeply impact the theory behind race deeply impacts our community and everybody around us. Even me
So,
looking white, I'm able to see that. I may not be white, but I look white, and I've seen the differences. I remember going to the corner store close to Yes with a few other people, and they would tell them to wait outside. Well, but not mind that I went in and was looking around for what I wanted to buy. They would look when they let the people I went with in. They'd be watching them, and it's like, what? Because I look white, I'm more trusted. I won't steal, but because they don't look white, they are supposed to steal. Like, what? What's the actual concept behind that?
yeah, that was that store that was you had to go over the highway and then down to the left. You talking about that one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, is this, I guess what I wonder is sometimes I feel like adults want to talk about this stuff too much. Like, do we talk about race too much, or do we, like, I think we've gone from where we tried to ignore that it existed. And I'm talking about like middle class white people more so. But now I'm wondering if we're at a point where we talk about it too much.
I think we talk about the differences of race too much instead of the similarities. And
Okay.
so the concept of it is still in the sense of it's trying to divide instead of bring together.
And don't you think if you were one of the people that had to sit outside of the liquor store or the corner store while you went in, would your perspective on that be different though?
That's hard to say. I'd be angry. I was angry nonetheless when that occurred because I didn't understand why the treatment was so different. I mean, I could plainly see that we didn't look alike, and so that's why. But the people that were inside the corner store were Asian, so it was something that I didn't expect at that age.
Yeah, I'm sure yeah. I mean, there definitely, I remember a lot of stories that go back to that store, and I feel like that could be like a avenue for further conversations because there are probably lots of kids that have stories like that. But I think yeah, I mean, I just kind of never know. Like, I think there is this, we talk about diversity a lot, like, and people immediately assume you're talking about race when you talk about diversity. But there is, like, I think we also live in a society where, how old are you? 25, 27, something like that?
I wish. I'm 31.
31. Okay, you carry it well. Like 30-year-olds hang out with 30-year-olds, right? And I'm 42. Like I tend to hang out with people my age. We don't get as many times when 50-year-olds are talking to 25-year-olds on these topics. And so that I wonder, that's the one thing that I wonder is like, is there a divide between generations that
I think it depends on how you present yourself, honestly. And going from growing up in East Oakland to the environment I'm working in now, where it's professional, people don't see me for where I came from. But when back then, people didn't see what my potential could be. If I tell, when I'm at work, I have a professional voice. I enunciate and I'm very polite. And so I'm able to have different kinds of conversations without it feeling heated with different age groups, my directors and all that. And we kind of understand each other from the senses of where we didn't understand before, because it seemed like a topic where there was too much tension to bring up and talk about. But if I've already had this experience when I started at the job with not my management, but from people that I work with, I tell them I'm from East Oakland and or even Oakland period, and they look at me like, really? Are you sure? And they kind of little lean back a little bit, like that's something that is bad to admit.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a hard time doing justice to my experience teaching in Oakland, because I do think there's a lot of, as soon as I said, where they say, where'd you teach? I say Oakland. Like, not everybody, but there's a lot of stereotypes about, Oakland means a lot of, and I want to express it, like, no, it was like a place that changed me. Like, I learned, like, who I am today is what I learned from that community and those students that I taught. But it's hard in the amount of time that you're given, at least for me, it's hard to convey that whole breadth. You talked a little bit about, like, race is dividing us, like it's an us versus them thing, right? Like, there's a lot of us versus them dynamics. And I would imagine when you go from East Oakland or from Hayward into Livermore or something, it's like you almost like move between worlds, and you have like a rare ability to move between those two worlds. But like, how do we get past these kind of us versus them type of dynamics, do you think?
That's a hard thing to actually put into it. It all depends on the person and how they perceive things, honestly. You can calmly explain things and show your opinion on anything, but people will have their way of reacting to it, and if they don't catch it, or if they're not aware or conscious of it, then that's how they reacted subconsciously to everything, and gives people a bad thought process of it. They think, oh, well, this is how you see me, or is that your reaction to me? What's so bad about it? But honestly, I feel like we're flowers that grew up out of the concrete.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, that's deep. That's a good way to look at it. And I don't know. I mean, I kind of view my like a little bit of what because I teach in a more affluent place now, is try to get people to recognize their blind spots, like try to get them past this, like, stereotypes they see when I say I taught in Oakland. But it's something I don't have a very good answer for or explanation for.
Yeah, no, trust me, I've been even at the job I'm currently at. I started there, and I start mingling with people to get to know them as I warm up to the new environment. And one of them asked where I live, and I told him, oh, Hayward. And he says, oh yeah, is that close? That's close to Oakland, right? I said, yeah. And he's like, oh, how can you live so close to Oakland and all the Black people? And I said, well, I'm actually from Oakland. Would you expect that from me? And and what do you think my reaction should be if I tell you that my wife is Black? And he just looked at me, and then ever said, from then until he stopped working at where I work now, he avoided me, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Well, good for you. Good for you to respond that way.
And,
I mean, that's a bit of the reality, I guess, and it's shitty that some people still think that way.
yeah, it really is shitty, because you lose out on so much opportunity of knowing people and growing. I grew up in a heavily gang-related family, and so I was taught not to be around other people of different races that it was a no-no. And for the majority until maybe 9th or 10th grade, that's the mentality I had. And it took so long to grow away from that. But just being around that mentality, and that's your expectation, you grow up and you feel this kind of like you're betraying for just talking to other people. They're not a bad person. It's just they're another race or something. But because of that and the way you're taught that you're not supposed to do that, it really confuses you mentally.
Imagine, yeah. And I mean, I think I grew up never being taught anything like this, but like grew up in a world where everything was very safe and sterilized, and kind of like there was like if we had ever gone to I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts, but if we had gone to a place that was more a black and brown type neighborhood, we would probably be like, be careful, right? Like you don't know what's going to happen to you. And then I think a lot of kids that grow up, white kids that grow up in suburbs, probably kids of any race that grow up in suburbs, learn a little bit of this like fear of like what I would say is like an internalized racism from the fear we often have about like safety in neighborhoods where they're really not all that dangerous.
Yeah. It,
I
it
mean,
all depends on what you're up to more.
yeah. All right. Well, this is deep. I appreciate your thoughts on that. Do you have any other final thoughts or words of wisdom or pearls of knowledge or shout outs or anything else you'd like to? There's going to be probably like 3 or 4 people that watch this video. My mom will open up in 2 different browsers. So it's about to go viral.
Yeah. I do really want to just appreciate everybody that I came in contact with from 2004 to 2008. It being that, yes, well, actually 2003, if I'm doing my math right, and it really changed a lot about me. I developed in so many ways, and I was able to see things so much differently than when I was taught growing up. I still have contact with people that I met through high school. Even I email Sampat, and we've had some conversations. And it's interesting to have that kind of impact with somebody, or that kind of, how do you say, where that relation with somebody where you don't feel like, okay, we grew apart. It's more like, okay, hey, how you doing? And you can just pick it up where you left off. I don't really think I have more than that, but I do wish that there were more schools like, yes. Having a daughter now, I'm highly questioning what kind of education I want her to get, because I don't have any faith in how the school system is currently. And I don't want her to learn the things that aren't gonna help her grow. And I don't want her to learn things that aren't true. But that's just the way our school system is currently.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight on your shoulders, I feel like. I mean, I will say, I think you just by being yourself and being curious and kind of engaged and creative, your kid's going to pick up on that, and they're going to learn a lot of that from just like watching you live your life that way. But yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
We got some major work to do in our schools. All right. Well, I appreciate that. That's a very nice, testimony to your teachers and to Yes. And I think a lot of people will appreciate you for sharing those thoughts. So thanks, Chico.
Anytime. I appreciate you inviting me.
All right. Hope we can do it again sometime.